Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let me show you different ways that you can launch apps on your Mac. So I'm using Mac OS 10.9 and let's look at different ways that you can launch apps. There's so many different ways. One of the most common ways, of course, is to use Launchpad, which is exactly what Launchpad is for. You can click on Launchpad down here or use your keyboard shortcut. You can find that in System Preferences, Keyboards, Keyboard Shortcuts, and see what you've got it set for. Once you're inside of Launchpad, the easiest thing to do, besides just clicking on the app if you see it, is to search for it by starting to type. And once you see it in the search results, you click on it and then it will launch the app. All of the apps found in Launchpad are in your Applications folder. The quick way to get your Applications folder is go into the Finder and use Command-Shift-A and it will open right up. And you can run an app by simply double clicking it in the Applications folder. Of course, you could also select the app and in the Finder go to File and Open. That will do it as well. Another way to run apps, of course, is to use the dock down here. That's probably the most common way to do it. And you can click on any app you want and it will run. If you want to add an app to the dock, all you need to do is drag and drop it from the Applications folder into the dock. So let's close Reminders there and I can add Calculator just by doing that. And once it's in there, I can click it to run it. And I could also drag it out and remove it from the dock. It's also very useful to have the Applications folder on the right side of your dock. I already have it here, but I could easily add it by just going to the top level, dragging the Applications folder into the dock like that. So once you have it in there, you can click it and you'll see a list of all your different apps and you can find the app that you want to run and select it from this list. You can also create aliases for applications. So for instance, I could take the Calculator app, instead of dragging it to the desktop, I don't want to drag it out of Applications. I can drag it and then you see it automatically creates an alias there. You see the curved arrow. So I can do that also by holding up Command and Option for any file. But I'm going to create an alias to it and you'll see it has a little curved arrow there telling me that Calculator is still where it is. But now I have an alias to it on the desktop and I can double click that to run the app. I could in fact create another folder. Let's create a folder in Documents here in my Documents folder, and in that I'll call that Apps, and in Apps I'll move this Calculator alias, and I can also put other aliases to other apps that I use. So I will put a Calendar alias there, and I'll also put a alias to Fontbook. And now I have this handy set of app aliases, but I can go into my Documents folder here, find that Apps folder here, and put that on the right side of the dock. And now I can use that to access some of my favorite apps without actually having to add them here into the dock. And I can change this here, Control click, and set it to say come out as a list and perhaps show as a folder here. And now I can access it this way. My personal favorite way to launch apps is to use a Spotlight menu. It's the magnifying glass right up here, and you can type whatever it is you want and it will find the app. So I can start typing Calculator and then I can click it and it will launch Calculator. But it's actually much easier to use the keyboard to do this. I never have to touch the mouse or trackpad. I use Command and Space and it automatically launches the Spotlight menu. I just start typing the first few letters and when I see it appear as the top hit, I hit Return and the app launches. So I can launch any app from the keyboard with just a few keystrokes. You of course don't have to access the apps at all to run them. You can run them by opening up Documents. So for instance, if I go into a Documents folder here and I select a file, say this is a Numbers file here, I double click on it, it will launch Numbers. I can also select File and Open and it will open Numbers. I can select Open With and it will find other apps that could possibly open that file. The same thing with holding the Control key or using your secondary click. You can do Open or Open With. And if you hold down the Option key, the Open With changes to Always Open With, and the next selection you make will then become the default selection for that file. Now you can actually add quick ways to launch apps in the Finder window. So here I am in the Applications folder, and I can take Calculator and I can drag it by holding the Command key down. I can actually insert it into the left sidebar, and now I have a way to launch Calculator here from the left sidebar. And I can simply remove it by dragging it out. I can also add it to the top toolbar by dragging it, holding the Command key down and waiting. It takes a few seconds for it to appear, and you'll be able to then add it to the top toolbar in here. There we go. And now I have an alias for doing that in there. And if this was, say, TextEdit, I could actually drag and drop files onto it to launch TextEdit with that file. Here might be the most obscure way to launch apps. You can launch the Terminal app and type with your keyboard to launch something. So the command you want to use is open, and you want to open something from the Applications folder, and you want to type the name. And it will work to launch the app. An alternative way to do it is to do open and then -A and then the name of the app. And that will work as well. You can even speak to launch apps. So go into System Preferences under Accessibility, turn on Speakable Items, and check all the other settings as well. And then you can talk to your Mac. Launch Calculator.